we're going to change a little bit of gears here. I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that I like in MetaStock. Tell you a little bit about the software and why I've been here for about 20 years, that kind of stuff. So in any case, let's go ahead and kind of get ready to change the gears a little bit there. In case you're not familiar with MetaStock, MetaStock's a company that we started here, or that Steve Akalis started here in 1982. I've actually worked for the company this year in March. It'll be 23 years straight. Okay. When I started, it was like 1997, I guess. I'd have to, no, 1995. Oh, no, no, it was 1997. I'd have to go look at my LinkedIn if I'm honest. I started, we were a Reuters-based company. We've bought the company back. I started in inside sales, so a lot of times if you'd have questions about the software, if you'd call in or towards the end, chat in, I'd be the person to actually answer your question. I've had a couple of different roles in the company over the years. I stayed in sales, if you believe it, for 10, actually it was just about 10 years. I think it was 9 years and some months. Up until just about September of last year, I was in charge of our business development team. So I worked with Steve and Jeff and Don and like pretty much everybody we have speaking here today to help them kind of get their methodologies coded over to MetaStock. And I have to say, in terms of working for MetaStock, it's a great company to work for. I'm proud to represent the product. It's been rated #1 in its price category, like I said, every single year since like 1995, I think, and 25 years in a row, basically. So, and it does a lot of things. I mean, we've talked a lot about how you can use it to go in and identify different stocks. You can test trading ideas. You can get the feedback. And really, we get a lot of people that ask, well, do you do brokerage and that kind of stuff? The nice thing about MetaStock is you don't have to give us a whole bunch of money and fund an account. You can use it with whatever brokerage that you want, but it is a software that's been rated #1 for 25 years in a row. We offer, in my opinion, some of the best news and analytics on the planet, bar maybe none. They spent, when they developed out our real-time data platform, Refinitiv Zenith, they spent over $1 billion getting it ready and getting it ready for launch. And they did develop it as a Bloomberg competitor. And it's literally, if you're working for a hedge fund or bank or on a trading desk, it's literally the same stuff. So you as a retail trader have access to the same type of information and news that's available from one of the largest information companies on the planet. So I love it. It's a great company to work for. What I want to do today is I want to show you a little bit about one of the first strategy in MetaStock. This one's included with MetaStock, but the very first one I started trading with, and we still love to show it. It's a great strategy. There's some very specific reasons I like to show this one. We can go in and we can show you how the system tester works and the scanner works and how all these different methodologies actually work. And you'll get a lot of information about that when you get your trial going. But I like to kind of show this one because it's very simple, it's easy to use, and it's 100% objective, and it gives you something you can use right out of the box as you're learning to use the tool that is MetaStock. So a couple questions. How long do you have access to the 4 add-ons once you purchase the trader tool? So good question. Most of these add-ons are actually a one-time purchase. So the Tompkins is a $90 per month, so you get that for 3 months. Everything else you own forever, Butch. So it's completely a one-time purchase. Thank you for the question, by the way. Ernest says, is MetaStock a direct competitor with VectorVest? Kinda. VectorVest basically does a lot, I'd say focuses a lot more on the fundamental side of things and one specific strategy. I would say that MetaStock's a bit more of like what you would consider like a much bigger toolbox. So Can you explain how Zenith has Thomson Reuters historical return analysis? I can't explain that. I'm not ready to, Xavier, but I appreciate the question. Was that renamed? I'd have to look into it. If you want to drop me an email, I'd be happy to kind of see if Lynn can find it for you. Hernal says, how come we don't have just comprehensive deep knowledge indicator or system? Well, let's see. If you want to know what I use, I just pick me up. I just piggyback off of greatness. I really like, in terms of things that we've talked about today, Vince has some great strategies. I really like to run scans on the Bigelow systems that we're talking about. I haven't created my own system, and if I did, probably include it in MetaStock. So, but what I would say about kind of today's batch of add-ons, we have some of the best speakers lined up to speak today, and some of the best add-ons. So the toolbox that we're offering today is good. So, but in any case, what I want to do is I want to talk to you a little bit about a very simple to use trend following system that's in MetaStock. And you've probably heard like the trend is your friend, or befriend the trend, or a rising tide lifts all boats, stuff like that. But this is a trend following system. So I'm going to kind of show you exactly how it works. There's a little bit of a fun story about this. And the system I'm actually going to show you is the Rahul Mohinder oscillator. So if you guys are familiar with Rahul Mohinder, that's fine. I'll just tell you, he runs a company that's called Viratex in India. So he's been a partner of MetaStock for longer than I've been an employee of MetaStock, by 1 or 2 years. And for Rahul, what he does is he does a lot of panelists on CNBC and CNN India. He's a trader in India. He also runs a training company in India where they own and run 3 or 4 offices right now in India, where they bring people in and they teach them how to trade. And he's been a dealer of ours for a number of years, like I said, I think. And he's been a very, very successful dealer of MetaStock. There is many years where his sales would double year over year over year over year. He comes into our office every year. We absolutely love him. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. But one of the years he was in, and we were like, can you show us one of the methods that you actually use for trading? And he showed us this RMO oscillator method, and we actually purchased the rights to use it from him. We've included in every version of MetaStock since like 10 or 11. I mean, this was a while back. In the meantime, I'm glad we did. I've shown it in all over the world, and on like stocks everywhere from Egypt to Saudi Arabia to London to obviously hundreds of times in the US stock market. But there's some very, very specific reasons I like to show it. It's easy, it's objective, it uses solid money management, and works on a lot of different instruments and a lot of different time frames. And if I do a pretty good job of explaining it to you, you'll be able to implement it in your trading. And again, it's included with MetaStock. So I like to show it because it's something, again, while you're learning to use the huge tool that is MetaStock, it's something that you can use. So I think that's enough about the introduction in terms of what it is. I got a little bit more winded than I normally get in it. What I'd like to do is see what you guys want to look at in terms of stocks or symbols. Go ahead and start putting them in here. Javi says, I want to buy the odds compression for options. Is Bobby working today? No, Bobby has today off. But if you want to chat into metastock.com/sales chat, they can put it under Bobby's name. Thank you, Javier. Scott says, beat is what he wants to look at. Yeah, if you guys have some symbols, let's look at some of the symbols that you've got. While you're hitting some symbols in here, I'm going to answer a couple more questions. How do you compare MetaStock to Thinkorswim as a platform? And I think MetaStock's a lot easier to use personally. I might be a little bit biased. I've been using it for 22 years now, but I think Thinkorswim's great. A lot of us use it here in the office. I'd say in terms of kind of scanning the markets and the built-in systems and the things that are included and the ability to code things and stuff like that. MetaStock is head and shoulders above it. And it depends on kind of what you're looking for. But like if you're new to trading and you're looking for something that can explain to you what a MACD is, MetaStock does that extremely well. If you're looking to scan a whole list of stocks and find the ones that are interested, if you're looking to create trading strategies, MetaStock's really, really good at those type of things. So good question, and it kind of depends on who you are, but I'm going to obviously tell you I think MetaStock is better. So let's see. Let's go ahead and get into MetaStock. There are a couple signals coming in here. Sajayat was in our class on Wednesday, and I'm going to continue to mispronounce your name as much as I can. But if one buys an add-on to MetaStock, how does one enable it? You just download it, it enables itself once you get it installed. Just download and run the installer. It's very, very easy to do. Okay, Rajendran says, like RMO, you can add some good systems and give life to MetaStock during your tenure. You're right. I've added a lot of, actually, never mind. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and go into MetaStock. I've got quite a few symbols, and we'll talk. It's a three-step process, basically. It's a trend-based system. We're gonna identify the trend from a long-term basis to medium-term basis and a short-term basis, and then we're gonna trade based on using those rules. And let's go ahead and talk about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and close out what we're doing here, okay? Swap in, okay? And we'll go ahead and get some charts open here, okay? And what I'm gonna do before I start opening up some charts is just close everything down. I've obviously been opening charts all morning, and actually that wasn't so bad. Okay, in the power console, I'm just gonna come to the chart tab. So again, just to go through the tools with MetaStock charts, we'll open up charts. Scanning allows you to test or go through and find stocks to trade today. And there's quite a few RMO scans that are in here. The tester allows you to test trading ideas and figure out what works well in the marketplace, what works well on the stocks, how frequently something trades, what the drawdowns look like, that kind of stuff. Very cool tool here. And then our patent pending forecaster. Right now, we're just gonna deal with the charts, and we're gonna go ahead and open up some. Okay, so we've got BEAT, B-E-A-T. If you guys know the symbol extensions for them and include those, that'll help me a little bit. Beat.o, okay. Scott asked for SLB is from Telet. PLI, which is a Canadian stock from Mark. So let me go ahead and make sure I get the symbol right. One of the things with MetaStock is it has symbols that are available for just about every market you can think of. So they have country codes. So if you're in Canada, you'll get used to using them. Let's see, PLI looks like .to would be the Toronto exchange. I'll go ahead and add that here. And you'll notice you can just type in your symbols up here. I'm separating them with a space. And we will pull in one more from set JIT, just because we won't have a lot of time to look at a lot of them. 4 is probably more than we'll have time to actually look at, but I'm going to assume this is SAT. Okay. Trevor says, I'm new to trading, never traded before, would love to get started. How do I get MetaStock and learn about it and start trading? Thank you, Trevor. I appreciate your interest in getting MetaStock. We can get you set up for either the Toolbox or the extended trial. Just chat online with metastock.com/sales chat. They'll help you figure it out. Okay. Scott or Sunil says, is it true that all the indicators lag the market? Well, certainly all of these ones do. This is a trend following system. So so it's going to lag a little bit because it's looking for trends to get established before you're buying in. It's certainly not it's not going to get the highs and the lows for you. Along those lines, one of my favorite technicians in the market. His name is Robert Deal. He's retired and lives in Arizona right now, but he certainly knew how to talk well and gave some great presentations when we were working together. And he said one of his favorite sayings that I absolutely still remember and love to this day is that bulls will make money, bears will make money, and pigs will get slaughtered. So typically when I'm looking for stuff, I don't mind if I'm lagging a little bit. I don't care about the biggest high and the lowest low. What I wanted to be able to do is find stocks that have the right trends and get on the right side of them. So Amazon I added for you, Chris, and Sat Jayet said that was the correct pronunciation of my name. Well, okay, a broken clock is right twice a day. Okay, so I've got them up here. And what I've done is right here, I've applied the RMO trade model. So if you've got MetaStock, this is all you'll have to do. Put in your stocks up here, apply the RMO trade model. This will help you open up the chart. We're going to go ahead and open up the chart. Okay, looks like I got the wrong symbol for SAT. So that's okay. Beat.O it's saying is invalid. That's interesting. I thought I'd look that one up. So we got 3 of them up anyway, so we can kind of take a look at a bit about what's going on. We've got Schlumberger, SLB. We've got the Toronto stock right here, and we've got Amazon. Okay. All right, so let's start. I guess we'll start with just SLB, and we'll kind of go through kind of what these are one at a time and kind of how to trade with them and stuff like that. Jim asks, will MetaStock looks for certain candles during different time frames? You can do stuff like that in MetaStock. MetaStock has its own unique library where it's easy to go in and create scans and stuff like that for just about anything that you want to. So thanks for the question, Jim. Okay, so this is a trend following system. It seems like we're kind of poking around and getting to where we're going in a bit of a meandering sort of way today, but that's okay. As I said before, it's the idea here is to trade with the trend or befriend the trend or that kind of stuff. So the first thing that we want to be able to do when we're using the RMO oscillator is to identify the trend. Obviously, if the trend is bearish, we want to be looking for short positions. If the trend's bullish, we want to trade into the trend and the bullish trend. Okay, and so with the Rahul Mohinder oscillator, there's basically, he looks at the trend in 3 different ways. He looks at it from a very long-term basis to a very short-term basis, and it's 3 rules basically. So the very first one that I'm going to cover is this RMO. The very top one here, the Rahul Mohinder oscillator, which is the screen indicator. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and make it full screen, which is pretty easy to do in MetaStock. This is the measurement of the primary trend, according to Rahul. Okay, so this will look at the way the stock has been going over a longer term basis and determine if it's bullish or bearish. And it's very, very easy to read. So for example, right here, if it's up above 0, then the primary trend is bullish. Okay, if it's down below 0, and I'm just going to put a 0 line in here. If it's down below 0, then the trend is bearish. The primary trend is going to be bearish. Okay, and the rules are very, very simple at this point. Basically, like if we want to trade with the trend and the trend is our friend, then if we only want to trade when the stock is actually bearish, or we want to, if the stock is bearish, which it has been since it was bullish a little bit here back in October, and a little bit back in before that, August, but for the most part, ever since, as long as we can see on this chart, it's been bearish. And it looks like it might change and go bullish again, but for the most part, the primary trend of this is bearish, okay? And until it goes up above 0 and is bullish, we're not gonna buy it, okay? So the rule is very simple. If it's in a bearish trend, we want to sell into that weakness, so we're allowed to go short. In this particular case, we can go short. We've been able to go short pretty much the whole time. We're not allowed to get long unless it's up above this thing. So that's simply how you read it. It's not more complicated than that. You'll notice there's a bit of a trend line down here that says your RMO is bearish bullish for a few days here and then bearish. So this whole time the trend has been bearish, okay? And if I look back in history, I wouldn't want to be looking to go long in this thing. I might be looking to go long here. There looks like it may have set a bottom, but until this goes up above zero and gives me a confirmed entry signal in, I'm not even going to consider it. This thing has just got too much weakness. It's got weakness written all over it. But it might be becoming time for it. Until it goes above zero, though, the rule's simple. We're allowed, and if our RMO is in a bullish zone, we're allowed to buy. If it's in a bearish zone, we're allowed to go short. It's not a trigger, so just because it goes from bullish to bearish doesn't mean we buy automatically, and we're not allowed to trade against the trend. We want to stay on the same side as the trend, okay? It's very, very simple. Okay, so then the second step is what we want to do is we want to look at the stock and identify like what the short-term trend would be. Because remember I said we look at a long-term trend and we look at a short-term trend. Okay, Trey asked, why is there a red sad face in the bottom right-hand corner of the stock? Look right here, you'll see that. This corresponds with this ribbon. So Mr. Frowny Face is going to stay Mr. Frowny Face as long as this is in a bearish zone. If it goes into a bullish zone, then you're going to get Mr. Happy Face. That's all it means. Is there a way to make the chart less blindingly brilliant? Yeah, you can change any of the colors. Anytime you want to change anything in MetaStock, if you want to make it less blindingly brilliant, like if you double click on it, you can go in, and that might be a little bit more subdued for you. It's easy to go ahead and make the changes that you want. Okay, and that's the same with anything. Like right now, we're looking at a line candlestick chart, or I'm sorry, bar chart. If I want to change that to a candlestick chart, I just double click on it, go down to candlesticks here, click OK. Anytime you want to kind of make things a bit of a different color, just double click on what you want to change, and you can set it to exactly the way that you want. That's a great question, Jason. I'm glad you asked. Okay, I never really looked at it as too blindingly brilliant, but you know, whatever you want to do, you certainly can in MetaStock. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to go in here and kind of talk a little bit about, now that we've identified that we're at least bearish long term, let's take a look at how we identify what the stock is doing on a more shorter term basis. So I'm going to come into these two indicators here. I'm going to point them out here. Right here, we've got the swing trade number 2 and the swing trade number 3. Okay, when I actually am going to make a small change, I prefer to look at the swing trade number 3 as a little bit more of a line. So I always kind of make that change to my chart again. You can just double click on it. And then to kind of make it more eye appealing and less brilliant, I'll just go ahead and change the color real quick to a bit of a red. So again, you can make any changes that you want. Now the pink line that I just made a red line is our short-term trend. So you'll notice that it's basically, again, it's going to be above zero, below zero, and we read it the same way as we read it the primary one. Okay, so this has also been pretty much bearish very much of this time, but right now it's kind of up into a bullish phase. Okay, it was bullish a little bit right here, it was bullish a bit right here, it was bullish a bit right here. So our short-term trend is bullish right now, while our long-term trend is bearish right now. Okay, and we ideally we want those to match. In fact, it's kind of part of the rules that we want those to match. Okay, this stock has had a nice little bounce against this nice long-term trend. I'd be long on this as soon as this comes up above zero. Looks like it's probably going to happen in a couple of days, but I want that setup to actually happen. I want that to give me that setup. Okay, so the rule is, the way Rahul teaches this rule is they have to match. Your primary trend has to match your long-term trend. Okay, so during all of this short activity where things were down below and the stock was falling apart, we'd be able to go short. Right now, we're kind of in an indecisive. The stock's bounced a little bit until it shows a little bit more strength. We're kind of on the sidelines. If they don't match, we're not going to get into this thing. What we want to be able to do is we want to trade into strength, both long-term and short-term. So it's getting pretty close. It's going to have to go up a little bit more. Okay. The other thing that I'm gonna, and JV, you asked a good question. You've asked some really good questions today. I'm actually gonna talk a little bit about what's painting the bars on the chart. We're in just a second. We'll get there. But what I do wanna point out is like this swing trade number 2 does determine what color your bars are. So if it's down below 0, that means that you're short term, you're bearish. You'll notice that as long as that's down below 0, you're going to have red bars. When it goes up above 0, it's going to switch to blue bars to indicate that there's strength coming in there. So you can look at the indicators if you want. You don't necessarily have to if you know how to read the chart. This ribbon on the bottom will say that the RMO is bearish. The color of the bar will tell you that the RMO, the short term is bearish as well, or long term is bullish as well. So you can do either one. Okay, so just to reiterate the rules, identify the primary trend. In this case, it was bearish. You identify the short-term trend. In this case, it was bullish, so they don't match. If the primary trend is bullish and the short-term trend is bullish, we would be allowed to buy. You're still not allowed to short, and it's not a trigger. Okay, you just reverse that. If the primary trend is bearish and the short-term trend is bearish, you're allowed to short, you're not allowed to buy, and it's not a trigger. Okay, we'll talk about the triggers next, but that basically what we want to do is identify the long-term trend is bullish and the short-term trend is bullish, or they're both bearish and we want to trade in the direction of those trends, or we want to wait until we have some decisive movement in the marketplace. It's very, very simple, okay? And again, if the primary trend and the short-term trend do not match, we don't do anything. We wait until they do match, or we scan for other opportunities. We want to trade into strength or trade into weakness, but we don't want to trade into indecision. It was like what Steve was talking about earlier. We don't want to trade the indecision, we want to trade the decision, okay? So let's talk a little bit about when they do match and kind of how that works. So obviously right now they don't match. We're looking for a couple things to happen. We're looking for this to kind of hit a resistance level or continue to pull up just a little bit to make everything bullish to structure a trade. They don't match now, so we're just in a waiting pattern on this stock, right? But if we kind of go back a little bit in time to where they did match, I'm just going to kind of narrow out this area on the chart where it went from primary bullish to primary bearish, and we can kind of start here. If we're looking, and I'm just going to zoom in right there, and I'm going to come out a little bit. I'm going to rescale the axis a little bit, and we'll go right here, okay? Now, there's a couple of some rules that go along with this that I'm going to kind of do my best to cover. If we were looking at it right here, we would have, okay. First I had to, I'm getting ahead of myself. First I want to explain how the rules work, okay? So let me go back out a little bit and explain exactly how the buy and sells get triggered, okay? So if we look back at these collection of indicators, you've got the short-term trend line, and you've got the long-term or the medium-term. This blue line is the medium-term trend. And unlike with the primary you wanted to be above 0. The short-term you want to be above or below 0, depending on whether or not you're going to go long or short. This medium-term trend we use as kind of a way to measure the way the momentum of a stock is moving. Okay, let me try and explain what I mean. Right here, if we're looking at the chart, and if I just looked at the underlying price movement, this stock is moving down rapidly, which is why this short-term trend gets weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. If I look at the underlying activity, that's because we're having this huge pull down, okay? At some point, that momentum is going to slow. It's going to start to turn the other way, and it's going to happen is we're going to have a shift of momentum or a shift of direction or a shift of force. Those are all words that Rahul uses to kind of explain what's happening here on the chart. Okay, when that shift of momentum happens on a chart, it's going to happen because of the cross, and when that happens, it's going to give you a buy signal. If it happens to the upside, if it happens to the downside, it's going to give you a sell signal. It's automatically drawn on your chart. The thing is like in the case of this buy signal, we wouldn't do anything because we don't want to take a buy signal when the RMO is bearish. Okay, this stock right now is bearish long term. and it's bearish short term where this cross happens. So in this particular case, we'd probably be short, and there's something very specific we do right here. But right now, what we're doing, we certainly wouldn't take a long position, although we'd be looking for a long setup. Again, if this crosses up above 0, there's going to be a little bit there. It might be worth taking a trade on. Okay, but in that case, when the momentum shows downside, that's actually when you want to take a trade, especially if you're in a bearish trend long term and a bearish trend short term. Okay, does that make sense? Talat says, does this system work intraday? It does. You can use this on any time frame that you want. Okay. As with anything that I'd recommend that you play with it, the nice thing about the market is you can play with stuff as long as you want to before you start like risking your money with it. So play with it. We offer the extended trial. It's a great system. It works on a lot of instruments. It certainly doesn't work on every instrument, but it works on a lot of instruments. Okay. So let's take a little bit of a look here. What we've got, and I'm just taking a look at the time. We should have Festo popping into the room pretty soon. So better start hurrying. Okay, but let's go back to where we've got this little bearish to bullishness. Okay, I think this is about where we're going to look at on the chart earlier. I want to talk a little bit about how Rahul manages his money. So if we're looking right here, we would have had a little bit of a buy setup. It would have went the very next day, it would have went bullish long term, and it would have went bullish short term. You see how that happens on a chart? Okay. And this is untypical. This is exactly kind of the way that it looks like on a chart. And I just want to zoom out just a little bit. Okay. So if we're looking at this chart, and just to kind of give you a context of what day we're looking at, this is July 30th of 2018. Okay. If we pulled up Schlumberger for the very first day on July 30th of 2018, we would have seen that we went from bearish to bullish long term. We went from bearish to bullish short term, and we had a shift of direction, a shift of force. All of this happened between the 27th and the 30th. Okay, so everything lines up for us to go ahead and take a trade here. What I want to be able to do is show you how Rahul would recommend that you structure this trade. Okay, so, and the way he does it is very, very simple. When you get everything kind of lined up like this, what you're going to do is you're going to grab this horizontal line tool in MetaStock, and you're going to look at the high for the day right here and the high for the day previous, and you're going to put a line right above the higher of those two values, either today's high or yesterday's high. Okay, you're going to do the same thing for the stops, but I'll go through the stops in a second. Well, actually, I'll go through the stops now. Rahul has two different ways that he teaches about stops. You can do it with the lows of the day. So if we did the low of today and the low of yesterday, your stop would go right here. That's the first method that he teaches. It's not the method I actually use. What I actually use is I look for a pivot low that happened just recently. So if I was looking to put a stop loss on this particular trade, I'd be looking right here. Now, in case you don't know what a pivot low is, it's simply a low that's surrounded by two higher lows. So if you look at this low right here, you've got a higher low here and a higher low here. It's a pivot low. I would put my stop right below the closest pivot low to that price. Okay, that's the second method, and just based on my experience, it's the one I prefer. Okay, you can play with both methods. Okay. So the rule here is very simple. What Rahul wants is he wants it to come up above this signal to buy in. If it doesn't come up above this signal, you're not going to buy it. Okay, which in this particular case for this long trade, it doesn't confirm. It gets weak again, and we kind of go the other direction, which is why we want just that additional confirmation by it to pierce the high. Okay, so the way we'd kind of look at this, if we're looking at just this part of the chart, obviously we don't see what's going to happen. Is we just basically say, okay, if it goes above $68.34 plus whatever 0.0057, if it goes above that value, we're going to buy in. If we buy in, we don't want to have no stops in place. We'll put a stop loss right here to ensure that if we're wrong, that we don't, we're only going to be risking the difference between 68 and 64. Okay, so every time you place a trade with RMO, as long as you're following the rules, you're going to be managing risk. Okay, if In this particular case, this long didn't trigger because it didn't penetrate the high. Okay, so let's get rid of the lines. Okay, instead what happened is it started to get weakness. Short term, it went weak here. Your shift in momentum or your shift of direction or your shift of force went here, and it also went long-term weak right here as well. So now we're looking to structure a short trade instead of a long trade, and I would be looking at exactly the same method. So I'm going to look at the low here, the low the day before, and I'm going to put a horizontal line right below the lower of those two values, which is the day before. Okay, I'm going to be looking for a pivot high. This is my pivot high. So I've almost done exactly the reverse trade, right? Now I'm looking to go short. If it goes down below this value, if it hits this high again, then I'm going to get out of that trade. I'm going to have an idea of exactly where I'm going to get out of the trade before I get into the trade. Okay, I don't know if you ever get in a trade and don't have an idea of where you're going to get out. It's not a good idea. If you've tried it, I wouldn't recommend it. Okay, so in this particular case, we do tag into a short position right here. We do put in a stop loss right here. Okay, let's go ahead and kind of move on. It kind of hangs around where we bought it for a while. Okay, and but it eventually starts to trend down. The weakness comes back into this thing. Okay, comes back up a little bit, but it's still kind of down. It's down below, well below where our buy is. Here, just a few days later, we get a signal that there might be a shift of momentum. It has this nice little pullback. You know, the market moves up and down in stair steps. It has this nice little pull down, comes back up to this resistance area, starts to test it. We get a little bit of a warning signal that we might be getting a shift of momentum, but the resistance holds and it starts to go down again. So when you see a signal that comes in the opposite direction of a trade you're in, we're short right now, you basically start to pay a little bit more close attention, because if you get bullish long-term and short-term, you want to reverse your trade. Most of the time it doesn't. Most of the time it resumes the trend. And that's exactly what happened in this case. It kind of sits right there at that level. Hello, Fausto. I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and mute him real quick, and then we kind of go into a trend resumption. I need to hurry. We can. There's a few other things I wanted to show you too, which we can do in the Q&A section at the very end. Here you get another move. This resistance holds. You get another shift of momentum to the downside, and at this point in time, you'll want to move down your stop loss. Okay. So if I look at the pivot low, I'd put my stop loss right at where we entered, right here, right above this high. Okay, goes down again. We have that shift of momentum. It even comes up enough to get short-term bullish. Okay, but it doesn't go long-term bullish. It does get a little bit of a scary. And as soon as everything goes against us, what we would do is we'd go ahead and get out of the trade. I need to start moving a little bit quicker here. So we get out of the trade right here when everything goes bullish. We'd be looking for a long trade, okay? But we made money on that stock, okay? Let's keep looking at it. Here we would have triggered into another trade. We would have put in a stop loss, okay? This we made a nice big move down on. We've just had that shift of momentum or that shift of force. Now we're kind of where we're at. So looking at this chart, it would have worked extremely well. Again, what we're looking for is we're looking to take big chunks out of an existing trend. And we're not really as interested in getting the exact high or the exact low. We're not interested in being slaughtered. Okay. The other thing that we'll kind of, let's look at the other two chart examples fairly quickly. We've got the PLI, this Toronto stocks. And I'll just say this, I'm going to go ahead and scroll out on this chart a little bit. It's been bearish for pretty much this whole chart long term. During that time, it's dropped from down $1.41 to 29 cents. This chart's a little bit below the price range I'd be interested in buying it anyway, but it's lost a tremendous amount of value. And if you were following this system in it, you'd only be taking shorts all the way down. This would have never given you an opportunity to go long, not one time. And that's not a bad thing because it hasn't had any strength. You don't want to go long on that one. Amazon, okay? So Amazon, if we just kind of look at this from a much bigger perspective, here we got it triggered to go long. For this whole period of this uptrend, okay, you're bullish. Okay, so we probably took a trade right here where it triggered in, moved it here, moved it here, moved it here. We don't have time to kind of go through every trade example, but during this whole bullish period, the stock rose from about 1462 to about 1993. We were only taking long positions and moving our stops up. We've had a bit of choppiness in it as of late. It isn't deciding on whether it wants to go up or down. But at this point, this particular trend, and this is where this system shines, is when you get a nice trend. We want to take good positions out of the overall trend. So that's just a freebie system. Well, that's a system that's included with MetaStock. I love showing it because, again, if we go back to the list of the reasons I'd like to show it, it's easy. It's 100% objective. You use solid money management. So those of you that have MetaStock, or those of you that get started on the trial, take a look at it. It's definitely one of those things that I think you'll really, really get a lot of value out of. Okay. And we'll show a couple of other things. I want to show a couple of the scans that I like in MetaStock towards the end of the present, or during the Q&A, in case you guys don't have any questions at the Q&A. But again, if we want to talk a little bit about MetaStock, just to kind of summarize what it does, you can scan markets to find the opportunities. You can test trading ideas across markets. You can forecast. We have a forecaster in there that allows you to forecast probability for price movements. There's a patent pending on it. You can get real-time alerts, commentary, signals. We work with some of the best experts in the industry, and there's a reason that it's been rated #1 25 years in a row. So we are offering an extended trial on just MetaStock DC or MetaStock Real-Time. If you want to take advantage of that, it's metastock.com/saleschat. And they can kind of help you get going with it. They'll get you set up with all of the training videos. We'll invite you to the boot camp that we're doing. We're also throwing in, as part of this Toolbox offer that we're doing today, and I know a lot of people have asked me questions, and I might have a few minutes to answer them. But we are offering, as part of the Toolbox, 3 months of real-time access to MetaStock RT, the Refinitiv data service. We're offering Steve Bigelow's Candle Profit Systems, Vince Vora's Veracity, the Jeff Tompkins Trade Trend, 3 months of that, the Don Fishback's Option Odds Probability course. All of that would normally cost $4,159. We're going to throw in 2 years of stocks and commodities, 3 months of MetaStock Real-Time, 3 months of MetaStock Zenith, Refinitiv Zenith. The Unleash the Power of MetaStock course, and the MetaStock Bootcamp, where I'm going to sit down and kind of walk you through how all of the tools work on February 13th at 4 p.m. All that would normally cost $4,159. As part of the summit pricing today, we're going to give it to you for $1,733. We're going to back most of that, with the exception of some of the data costs, with our 30-day money-back guarantee. So to take advantage of that, give us a call, 800-882-3040, or visit us at metastock.com/saleschat. Let's see, what kind of questions do you have? Let's see. Talit says, does this work on intraday? It does. Gloria says, where would this be out of this short trend? And I think, okay, so with the stock, I think you're talking about the stock, Gloria, that we were looking at first. It would still be in the short trend, but we'd be looking to get out as soon as that pops up above 0, okay? Emilio says, can you or have you code the RMO rules and backtest with MetaStock? It doesn't come as part of the system, but we have I've tested it with a lot of real money and it works pretty well. Camel says, can you show us an intraday chart demo with RMO? I'll be happy to do that in the Q&A section later on. Ash says, Ash is the name of my daughter, so that's cool. What will be the MetaStock cost after the free period? So there's 2 versions of MetaStock. MetaStock DC, which is like $59 a month and comes with all the data to run it. And that DC stands for daily charts. And then there's MetaStock Real-Time. MetaStock Real-Time is $250 per month. And if you decide to keep it, though, I wouldn't recommend you pay $250. What you should do is actually go ahead and do the trial, because it includes 3 months of access. But if you decide you want to if you want to decide you want to keep MetaStock, like most people, you can do a one-time purchase of MetaStock for about $1,300 that will include lifetime access to MetaStock, and then you just have to pay for the zenith cost for data after that. That's what most people do. Okay, hopefully that helps. If I didn't go through that slow enough for you, or if you wanted somebody to kind of walk it through with you, just give us a chat or a call. metastock.com/sales chat is the best place to do that. Okay. Scott says Steve Bigelow, CPS is a one-time fee. Yeah, so all of these are a one-time purchase. So this the 1733 includes Bigelow, which is a one-time cost. Oh, it does say month on there. I'm gonna have to fire my marketing guy. This is a one-time cost. It's not a monthly fee. This is a one-time cost. This is about $90 a month, so 3 months would cost you $270. This is also a one-time cost. Scott, that's a really good catch. I'm glad you pointed it out. You're welcome. Absolutely, Ash. Appreciate your interest in it. So that's what we've got there. And I might have gotten a little bit too ahead of myself. I got really, like I need to finish this up. We don't want to go over time. So in any case, yeah, it's a great offer. And there's all kinds of things that we can talk about scanning and forecasting and finding the right trades at the right time. That's really what we focus our efforts on here. Mark Sicati says, Jeff Tompkins Trade Trend is, no, it's a subscription. So it's normally like $90 a month. We're throwing in 3 months at the special summit price, okay? And so far, that's a brand new add-on. We released it like a couple of weeks ago. It's been insane how many people have signed up for it. It's off to a huge start, mostly because, I'll be honest, it's Jeff Tompkins following. He's had a lot of people that are students of his that have been online for a long time. He's taught 17,000 people how to trade over the years, and they're all getting this add-on. And the thing is, it's like the initial feedback has been really, really good from his customers so far. So in fact, we sat down with and did a 1.5-hour boot camp just for his customers, and his customers are awesome. They have really good questions. We spend a lot of time going through everything. That boot camp, by the way, will be available as part of your purchase. So you'll get a link to that. We recorded it last Wednesday. Alan says, another question for your marketing guy. All 5 ounce, yeah, there's only 4. Yeah. I've actually corrected that in most of the slides. I just missed this one. Mark says, got it. So Steve Bigelow, CPS, veracity, and odds compression are all one-time cost, but trade trend is monthly. That's exactly right. Thank you guys for helping me out. And here, let's go ahead and just fix this PowerPoint while we're doing. We're gonna while we're doing this, I do want to thank Stocks and Commodities for sponsoring the event today. And we love Stocks and Commodities magazine. There you go. That should be oops. Oh, well, I'll have it correct for the next time. So want to thank Stocks and Commodities. They've been sponsors of the software and the summit for as long as we've been doing it. We're celebrating 6 years of online trading summit this year. So it's been way more successful than I ever anticipated it would be or guessed it could be. I really appreciate everybody that comes today. And all of the speakers that kind of participate in it. And I appreciate Stocks and Commodities for helping us advertise it, get people to the event, and for offering 2 years of subscription as part of the toolkit or just a free issue. It is a great magazine. I've been getting copies of it since I started here, so like 23 years. I hope you took advantage of the free copy. I'll be posting the link here in a little bit to get a free copy of the slideshow.